The Total War Warhammer 3 community has been on quite the rollercoaster ride recently. It used to be that we had a somewhat decent idea of the trajectory of the game back when the roadmap was still a thing. We had Shadows of Change releasing with Kislev Cathay and Tzeentch, and Thrones of Decay with Dwarfs, Nurgle, and the Empire. After that, we had a Slaanesh DLC with what most people assumed would be elves tagging along. Presumably, Khorne would have followed. Now, after several major catastrophes, the Legend leak, and the recent confirmation that the next DLC is actually Greenskins, Ogres, and Khorne, it's hard to know what the far future of the game will look like. But the hope around this game continuing for a long time is on some shaky ground. While the future of Warhammer 3 is uncertain, one thing remains true. There are years and years of history and lore behind Warhammer, which has produced lists of characters that are both inspiring and cruel, intriguing and brutal, ones that inspire sympathy, and ones that are utterly detestable. I made it my goal, whether it be as an exercise in Slaaneshi sadism or hopeful appreciation of the franchise, to find some of these characters which should be added to the game as lords or heroes, and to share them with you. So I went through the lore of each faction and picked out at least 2 characters for each that I thought would make for interesting legendary lords, and a few extra as legendary heroes. I judged each character based off their uniqueness, their lore, cool factor, and community support. These characters come from everywhere: cancelled games, army books, novels, and tabletop role-playing games. I have left no stone unturned. It is important to note, however, that I'm not trying to say I can do a better job than the people at Creative Assembly making the game. I can't make a video game from code, and I don't have any idea the kind of restrictions they go through with Sony or Games Workshop. This is also not some prediction of how the game will look. This is how I think it should look from Thrones onwards. I'm not going to revise previous DLCs, remove characters, or change where characters start, but I will give each of my picks a starting location on the Immortal Empires map that aims to expand the experience of the faction and remain somewhat lore-friendly. Let me know what you think about each of my picks and where I put them in the comments. Now, without any further ado, I'd like to start with one of the most played factions in the game, the Empire. Truth be told, the Empire is not the best faction to start off with, because it is an exception to many of my rules. The Empire already does a good job spreading their characters around the map, with Marcus and Lustria, Volkmar fighting off Tomb Kings, and now Gelt and Cathay. So my additions didn't really add to the experience in that way. But still, you gotta start with the Empire. They've been here since Game 1, and in many ways they are THE faction. Additionally, the Empire breaks my rules because I actually chose 3 lords to add for them, but only because one of them seemed so obvious that it felt like cheating not to include him. The beloved of Ulrich, the Grand Duke of Middenland and the protector of Drakewald, Boris Todbringer has fought many battles, both physically and politically, in his life, and he has faced them all with determination and extreme vigor. For decades, he protected his homeland by waging war against the beastmen in the Drakewald forest. He was the one who took the eye of Khazrak, who is now known as Khazrak the One-Eye. Unfortunately for the Elector Count of Middenland, it was the same Khazrak who would take his own eye a year later. His hatred for the beastmen and his rivalry against Khazrak was what ultimately made him take his mind off his other rival, Emperor Karl Franz. After the death of the previous emperor, Boris Todbringer was the only one to challenge Karl Franz for the throne of the Empire. Boris lost the vote, and now both him and his cult of Ulrich are overshadowed by the cult of Sigmar. Perhaps it's a good thing for the Empire of Man, however, for the beastmen can often be found in the shadows and depths of the forest, and so long as there are beastmen to fend off, Boris Todbringer will be there fighting them. Boris is a character who has already made an impact in the Total War games. 2 of his biggest rivals are already playable characters, and he himself is in there, just not as a legendary lord. He fits all my criteria for being added to the game. As an Elector Count and a part of the cult of Ulrich, he is very unique. His lore is closely tied to both Khazrak and Karl Franz, and the community has been asking for him for a long time. I would start Boris in Middenheim, as that is the province that he is an Elector Count of. The oceans of the Warhammer world are a dangerous place, where dark forces spread their vile corruption across the world. No one knows this better than Captain Jago Roth, the son of the legendary explorer Indigo Roth. He became quite famous himself, sailing with Talians, Bretonnians, and the Empire. But his story wouldn't truly start until he swore an oath of vengeance upon Count Noctilus for having destroyed his ancestral home and killing his family. Rescuing a few of his father's old artifacts from the fire still consuming his home, he set off to form the Grand Alliance and led a crusade to destroy the Dread Fleet and cease the vile magic around the galleon's graveyard that cursed the seas. Along the way, his adventures would make many enemies and allies, including the Grand Theologian Volkmar after stealing his capital ship, the Heldenhammer. Jago Roth would make for an interesting Empire lord, with a mix of Empire units and Sartosan pirates, as well as sharing the pseudo-horde mechanic that the Vampire Coast has. Despite being a part of the Empire, he wouldn't necessarily be well liked, and would spend most of his time away from home, sailing the Great Ocean and dealing with exotic enemies. I would start him in Marienburg, a place where he has history with and where he sailed through when stealing the Heldenhammer. The Empire puts a great deal of weight on the names you carry. Being born under the house of an Elector Count can bring you a great deal of privilege in life. Other names bring you the opposite. It's something Johann van Hel knows well. A descendant of Frederick van Hal, the first necromancer to curse the Empire, Johann felt obligated to spend his life fixing the wrongs of his ancestor. He is now one of the most well-known witch hunters in the Empire. He has slain many vampires, including Gunther von Bloodfell, and purged the haunted castle of Reichwald. He wields pistols loaded with silver bullets and the lost relic known as the Stake of Sigmar. His name is often called upon by those looking for help with vampiric threats, and so long as payment is made to the Church of Sigmar, Johann van Hel will be there to hunt his prey. He is also followed by Wilhelm Hasberg, a warrior priest of Sigmar, a Kaizek to his Tarmacon. It is finally time for the Empire to lean into the witch hunter support, and Johann van Hel is the perfect character to do so. He would start at Fort Sol, where he would have the opportunity to start a wide array of adventures, like invading Sylvania and purging the Empire of the Vampire Counts, or going west into Bretonnia to deal with the likes of the Red Duke and Kemmler. Or maybe he works his way to the land of the dead, fighting off Tomb Kings and Manfred to meet up with Volkmar the Grim. There are many possibilities to go for legendary heroes. I looked at characters like Zavant Koniger, the sage investigator of Altdorf, who could provide heaps of public order while reducing corruption, but I didn't quite know what he'd do in combat. I think he is an interesting character and could work, but my main pick is Kurt Helberg, the Reichsmarshal of the Empire and General of the Empire Army, second only to Emperor Karl Franz himself. He has fought many battles against orcs, ogres, chaos, and many others. A great swordsman and tactician, he would be useful on any battlefield. Maintaining a strong cavalry and winning battles would be a surefire way to get his attention. Lenore Rice is my other pick, the Lady of the Wilderland, who joined a regiment of outriders when she was just a young girl and learned how to handle herself within their ranks. She has earned herself heaps of respect from her peers and from the peasants of the Empire, whom she often protects from bandits and beasts when no one else will. A folk hero in her own right, clad in a mask and hooded cloak, she lets her actions speak for her. She would only join your army if you recruited a certain amount of outriders and maintained good public order. So that's the Empire. In the future, I will include more factions per video, but for this first one, I want to keep it simple. Again, the Empire already does a good job at spreading out the lords across the map, but I think I managed to get interesting starts anyways. Let me know what you all think, and thanks for watching.